What's up, addicts? All right, I want to give you a scenario, lay this out for you. So, right now, pretty much across the board, the consensus 1 and 2 for Dynasty rookie drafts are Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jonathan Taylor, and the main argument right now is who to go first in that group. We've already laid out our case for why we think Clyde Edwards is the number one running back, but Jonathan Taylor is a close second. Don't have anything really negative to say against him. The landing spot was a little less than ideal, but overall was still a pretty good spot. Getting traded up for, has the draft capital. That debate is pretty much settled, at least in terms of who's 1 and 2. Now, the question is, who should be number 3? And this is where things get way more dicey because now you can almost bring in, the whole landscape of wide receivers that could go in the first round. There's still DeAndre Swift truthers out there, even though he went to arguably the worst landing spot of the 5 running backs. Cam Akers going to the Rams, doesn't have to deal with much competition, but has a bad offensive line. And then there's J.K. Dobbins. Today, I want to lay out the case of why I think that J.K. Dobbins is actually a candidate to be, by this time next year, more valuable than either Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Jonathan Taylor. And I want to do so by looking at a few really interesting articles posted by some really talented guys in the fantasy community, and we'll go over those now. Links for these articles be in the description. So first one we want to look at, and this is actually a continuation piece of his first piece, but for those of you who know, Graham Barfield does great work, and one of the things that he is most well known for is his yards created column. Now, yards created is something that they personally chart. I believe it's he and a team. It might just be him. He might be crazy. But he literally charts every single run of these guys and determines how many yards did the player actually create. Basically, the O-line is always going to create some space for the runner, but then the amount of yards that are actually picked up beyond what the offensive line created for them is what makes up yards created. And now, in terms of how this projects into what we can expect from a player in the NFL, this is actually one of the more highly correlated stats that translates into NFL success, which we'll get into on the next article. But I wanted to go over this one real quick. Again, Graham Barfield, terrific analysis being done here, looking at just a really interesting fact for Dobbins. He actually had a higher yards created per attempt than Taylor, Edwards-Helaire, Swift, or Akers. He had 5.04 yards per attempt, 4.48 yards created inside, and 6.98 yards on outside carries. Other interesting fact here that I didn't even hear about, but apparently John Harbaugh said after the draft that Dobbins was actually the Ravens' top-rated running back. So that's already an eye-opening thing. We've already used that as the case for why we love Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the Chiefs, because we trust Andy Reid in that offense. Well, I also trust Jim Harbaugh. They've had really good run game for a pretty long time, and that's always kind of been their identity. And seeing that they had J.K. Dobbins ranked ahead of Jonathan Taylor definitely piqued my interest. And I think part of the reason why is this fact right here. 57% of Dobbins' charted carries were run-pass option rush attempts. And no team has had more run-pass RPO rush attempts in 2019 than the Ravens. So it's a perfect fit here for J.K. Dobbins going into a system with Lamar Jackson. That RPO option the RPO is going to be insane with J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson there. It's going to be very, very difficult for opposing defenses to have to deal with that. Yes, they're losing Marshall Yanda there, but overall, one of the better run-blocking offensive lines in the league. They did take a few guards in the draft as well, so hopefully that'll help shore up the run-blocking game there for the O-line. But really, really excited for this landing spot. But let's get into the next article here. I want to just continue this conversation into what could be the potential landmines and why J.K. Dobbins isn't being revered as in the same light as guys like Clyde Edwards and Jonathan Taylor. Now, David Zack over at Fantasy Pros, this is actually becoming one of the things that's fascinating me more in terms of projecting draft profiles, and I really, really like the work that this guy does. So definitely go check this article out, support him. He's on Twitter as well. But basically, what he has done is he's been doing this for quite a few years, and he's been tweaking it and creating a Z-score using a bunch of different factors from college to try to create a R squared for, I won't get into the stats nerds because I'm not too much of a statistician myself. I'm an accountant, so once the math gets too crazy, then even I start getting lost. But effectively, R squared is grading how close your model is getting to actual predictability. And he's building his model based off of draft capital, lack of backfield fantasy competition, athleticism score, yards created by Graham Barfield, which again is one of the highest correlated factors, college production adjusted for competition in the final season, and the offensive line ranking of the team that they're going into. And then he assigned each one a grade based on their production or their overall score of these metrics. Again, you guys can read all the nitty-gritty here, but effectively what this had created with all these metrics, he's now created over the past an R squared of 0.62, which is pretty good in terms of when you consider how much we consider things like draft picks as crapshoots. Being able to project that closely to your model is really good, and overall it's been pretty predictive of success, even with guys like Alvin Kamara had a higher R squared than some people would have initially expected, considering where Alvin Kamara went in the draft. So really excited to see what the scores look like, and I'm not going to hold off any longer. So obviously we've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jonathan Taylor at the top, no surprise there, but we see J.K. Dobbins down here at number 5 under Antonio Gibson, so that's a little surprising. Overall, this is about a tier break between Edwards-Helaire and Taylor and the rest of the guys, which again pretty much goes into the factors that we consider for most of the rankings out there right now. So why is J.K. Dobbins 5th? And why am I defending him as pick number 3 when I'm using this as my excuse? Well, first of all, this athleticism score, one of the biggest drivers is their Harvard Combine metric. Well, J.K. Dobbins injured his ankle and he didn't perform at the Combine, and due to the current pandemic that we're going through, he didn't have a pro day. So the overall hit is going to be mostly reflected in his athleticism score because he doesn't have those Combine metrics to go off of. Now, based on pro day type events, I believe it was a Nike event that he ran before college, he would have tested very well at the Combine, assuming he was running at a similar speed and performing Combine drills at a similar rate as he was heading into college. He would have been one of the highest rated prospects in this class, but because he didn't test, we don't know. And because he didn't have the pro day, we don't know either. So without being able to use those models in this projection, we now have a hole in his athleticism score. So right now, we know that this one is basically deflated. I don't imagine that J.K. Dobbins would have tested poorly at the Combine. Now, maybe that's just me making speculation there, but based on what we've seen on tape, the way that he performed in Ohio State, I don't see how he would have performed terribly at the Combine. So this should be higher. It's just not because we don't have any numbers to go off of. And then the biggest detriment to his score right here is his fantasy competition, going into an offense that has a lot of rushing touchdowns already being held by Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram from the prior year. Mark Ingram is still there, although he's likely to be out at the end of this year because the team has a very easy out in his contract after this season. J.K. Dobbins is definitely going to a team that has higher rushing competition than some of his peers. So these two things together are weighing his score down pretty heavily. I think in terms of the athleticism, we can just see that we don't really know, but this should be higher. We don't know exactly how much higher, but even if it took it up to a B or a B+, that would bring him above the likes of Akers and Gibson. We see that he's ranked higher in his college-adjusted production. He's higher in his yards created attempt, which again is the higher correlation to this model. So being ranked the highest of the big 5 running backs, and he's going to a team with a better offensive line than any of his other peers. So that leaves us with the lack of fantasy competition. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Mark Ingram is just going to go away. Most likely they're going to have some form of committee, especially in the first year. However, Mark Ingram is 30 going on 31, and it would not be that surprising to see him either cede the role to J.K. Dobbins halfway through the season, either due to injury to Ingram or just being vastly outproduced. This was a similar take that we had with Nick Chubb a few years back when Carlos Hyde was there. There were a lot of people that were scared off of Nick Chubb because Carlos Hyde was going to be seeing most of the carries, and then by halfway through the season, the Browns released Hyde, gave Chubb the full workload, and Chubb dominated. This is a dynasty league. I don't care about the couple weeks that Mark Ingram is going to be. Even if Mark Ingram led this backfield and J.K. Dobbins was a 1B to Mark Ingram's 1A for his entire first season, once Mark Ingram is gone, J.K. Dobbins is going to be working on one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient, run offenses in the entire NFL with Lamar freaking Jackson in a fantastic offensive line and just a perfect system for a running back that has a lot of experience in the RPO to go to. Cam Akers dealing with a terrible offensive line and the fact that Sean McVay is saying that he wants to run a committee. We already have seen what the Lions like to do with their backs. With Matt Patricia there, he really takes after his predecessor, or I don't really know if you call him predecessor, but taking after Bill Belichick, loves to run the running back by committee. You know, Kerryon Johnson is still there. He's not going away anytime soon. So DeAndre Swift is most likely going to be in a committee as well. Clyde Edwards, you can make the argument that maybe Damian Williams will see some time, but I don't really see that. I think of all 5 running backs that are going, within the first 5 or so picks, Clyde definitely has the easiest trajectory to volume. Jonathan Taylor dealing with Marlon Mack. So all of these guys are dealing with running backs. We're just thinking because Mark Ingram ran really well last year, and we have a sour taste in our mouth for Marlon Mack and Kerryon Johnson and Todd Gurley, that J.K. Dobbins all of a sudden should be punished for going to an amazing team that already has a decent running back there. I'm just not understanding from a dynasty perspective why you would have anyone ranked higher than J.K. Dobbins, because once that backfield is his, I would much rather have a running back that is on a team like the Ravens than a team like the Lions. Am I missing something here? I don't think I am. So again, if there's anything that I'm trying to get you to pull away from what is being provided here is obviously this should be higher. No combine really hurts his ability to show off what he's able to do athletically, and I almost don't even pay too much attention to the competition because in Dynasty, yes, the first year matters. You have to project in terms of immediate and long-term value. But if J.K. Dobbins basically gets to redshirt this year, and he's still only 21, so that means he gets to take over the Ravens' backfield at 22, good night. Of all the running backs here, the running back that has the highest potential to be the number 1 running back in 2021 is clearly J.K. Dobbins. And for that alone, if you have a team that you're able to sit and not worry about immediate production from your first-round pick, if you already have a decent team and you're able to compete this year, J.K. Dobbins is the clear smash hit for me. I really think that this is a no-brainer in terms of what he can do long-term. But you guys tell me what you think. Seeing the production that he was able to put together in Ohio State, over 2,000 rushing yards, another 247 receiving. I mean, he's a better receiver than Jonathan Taylor, not a better receiver than Swift or Edwards-Helaire, but he's a better inside runner than both of those guys. So he's the best all-around back, has the most experience in the RPO. I don't know, man. I really like J.K. Dobbins a lot, and to me, he's my clear number 3. I have him ranked in the same tier as Clyde and Taylor. Now, I wouldn't take him over those guys, but if both of those guys are gone and Dobbins slides to you at pick 4, 5, 6, take him. Take him, and even if he doesn't produce ridiculous points in his first year, just wait, man, because 2021 is coming. Mark Ingram's going to be gone, and it is going to be sweet for J.K. Dobbins. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have a link in the description box if you guys are curious how I have all the running backs ranked for rookie and for Dynasty in general. Click that link in the description, free access to my NFL companion, and hit that like and subscribe button for more videos like this one. We'll see you guys in the next video.